Yes, people, what is going on? I hope you are all good. We have come to the end of the regular football season. There's a lot of World Cup action coming up. But before we go any further, we have to review the final bits of the Premier League season, a couple of other things that have happened as well recently, but of course, a couple of massive European finals. Before we go into them, Cameron Duggan, how are you, my co-star? What is going on?
Well, I think some people might notice I have had a haircut, so...
You have, yes. To be fair, in the heat, it was completely necessary.
I needed it. Like, it was just getting too hot, and the hair just started annoying me, so I was like, right, it's got to go.
Yeah, get it off.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, something has come to the end, which is the end of the football season. I mean, it was sort of a non-event final day, wasn't it, really? And I know that sounds really harsh to say. Obviously, before we go any further, people will not be expecting me to do this, but I do have to because it is the right thing to do. Congratulations to Arsenal, who have won the Premier League for the first time in 22 years. That generally makes me physically sick to say that. But they have won the Premier League, and I think we can probably say, in fairness, they have been the best team consistently across the year. Obviously, we had the Man City comeback, and there was the whole bottle jobs thing going around about Arsenal. But then City ended up bottling it, really. And of course, I think Arsenal deserve to win the league for what happened in the start of the season. I don't think they've really ended the Premier League season that well. But again, it's a whole 38 games, so it has to definitely count. Congratulations to them. Obviously, massive final that they have, of course, got on Saturday, which we'll come on to later. But that sort of final day was a non-event. We sort of knew who the teams that were getting into the Champions League were. The only sort of real movement there was, like big movement, was probably the teams that qualified for Europe. But I'm going to start at the bottom of the table, if that's okay with you, Cameron. And of course, we have lost West Ham. The game for Tottenham managed to get a 1-0 win against Everton. Not a result that I was expecting. I did think Everton might drop off a little bit, being last game of the season, with not a whole heap of stuff to play for. I think for them to get into Europe, they still needed help. I might be wrong in that. But Leeds losing to West Ham 3-0. West Ham with a very good and impressive result. Leeds, I think, will probably try and get rid of that one quite quickly, but still not enough for West Ham. And there is going to be a 60,000 capacity London Stadium in the Championship next year. We can talk also about the teams that have come up, of course, Coventry, Hull. We'll go on to that a little bit later on. But that's a massive stadium to go down. That's a really big stadium to go down, the London Stadium. And as a club, you think West Ham, 3 years ago, won the Europa Conference League and looked like they were absolutely flying and sort of starting to head in the right direction. They had the Declan Rice money. They sold Kudus, so you sort of thought that maybe things were going to start turning in their favour. They might have a little bit of money to play with to sort out some of their problems. Hasn't happened, and they have gone down as the third team to go in the Premier League.
Yeah, it was... I mean, they done everything they could on the final day. They beat Leeds after what was a shaky first half for them. They won 3-0. It was comfortable, but then because Spurs, I think, had scored already, I knew that West Ham...
They scored quite early in the game.
Well, I mean, they scored by half time, but by that point, West Ham was still 0-0, not playing great. So it was like they had the advantage, and the fans in both stadiums would have known that. And then Everton, I don't think they really offered much in that game anyway. Not until like the very end where they tried to push. But even then, like, again, they're not playing for anything. They couldn't qualify for Europe unless a lot of stuff had happened. They're not getting relegated. They were just in that weird middle ground. Yeah. And just like, okay, well, all right, well, we can just have a bit of fun last day of the season. It's more of a kickabout for us before we book our holidays or travel off to the World Cup, some of their players. So
I was going to say that World Cup is so big at the end of a season like this that, being respectful, I'm not going to pull out the individual players here, but I've seen players in the last few weeks that have dropped off massively, and that's since they've been selected to go away to the World Cup with their national team. And you look at it and go, well, I don't really blame you, because football is about playing at the highest level possible, you know, and trying to be the best that you can potentially be. And the World Cup comes around once every 4 years, and that is the spectacle that everyone looks at. So, yeah, you want to go. And I think for the Premier League clubs, you know, Everton, I won't mention who, but there was definitely an Everton player that I thought was in a similar sort of position. And you could just sort of see where just the intensity in the Premier League, I feel, in the last couple of weeks has dropped. And I don't think that a lot of people are sort of taking that into consideration. And I think probably the Villa result with them when they lost to Tottenham before obviously having that massive semi-final against Forest, I think a lot of teams looked at that and went, well, if they're doing it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe individual players were thinking that, or maybe, you know, teams were thinking sort of similar things. What's the point of resting, you know, going all out for these games when we've got nothing to play for? We're going to have players that are going to then go and play at the World Cup, might think about the Muller that then comes in if they get a move afterwards. It was a bit annoying, actually, the sort of final end to the season. And that might be, to be fair, why City actually didn't sort of get over the line. With the comeback that they had, then they fell off quite quickly. You know, the Everton result was the big one for them. But you can understand, again, why players' minds are elsewhere.
Yeah, 100%. I think that Everton result is why City weren't going to be up there on the final day. And then, obviously, they dropped points again. And then it was Arsenal's trophy then. So then we're coming to the final day, like, all right, Arsenal's already won the league. All right, it's Pep's last day, so we're going to be in like a celebratory mood anyway for him because of, you know, how great he's been for that club.
Of course.
So I think that's probably why they lost as well, because I think Villa were out on the piss really after their cup final, and a lot of their players
would you not be? I would be.
Oh yeah, like
100%.
Their first trophy in how long?
I don't know. I know it's the first European trophy in about 40, 50 odd years,
Yeah,
which is,
like,
again, it's incredible. And very quickly, we're going to come on to them later on, but congratulations to Villa. I think the whole nation actually, probably bar people potentially in Birmingham, I think the whole nation pretty much wanted Villa to win. A great, attractive brand of football, thoroughly deserved. But I'm just going to go on something that you mentioned there, because it was the next thing I had on my list. It was Pep Guardiola, and obviously announcing that he was leaving, which, very annoying. There wasn't a podcast last week, because really, really annoyingly, after we did it, we basically said that there was nothing going on, really. It was not a massive story, and we made a podcast, but by the time that we got round to editing it, recording it and everything, the Pep news dropped, Maresca's coming in, there were so many different things that were all going on. But let's get back into that Pep thing very quickly. Massive legacy. Maresca's now going to come in to attempt to replicate that, which I think is very good luck, Enzo Maresca. With the squad that he's got, I think he can go and have a very, very successful time at Manchester City. But to rival what Pep has done is probably not going to happen.
No.
I think with City now, obviously being in a time that is very much of transition, they've still got a fantastic squad, and they're going to be able to add people in here and there.
Yeah, they'll always have the money to spend. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, and even they've got a couple of players leaving anyway, Stones, so they've probably already got their replacements lined up. Let's be honest. Like, and then like obviously you got the World Cup coming up. Whoever does well in the World Cup, who is still like a good player, and who's like then on the World Cup brought themselves that bit higher in the competitive nature of it, they'll be looking at them thinking, okay, we can sign them.
Yeah. And I mean, you get players, you get teams like City that are so well run that you can go into a tournament knowing, sort of having an idea of who you want. You know, even before the tournament's played. You look at Chelsea, for example, when they had the 2022 World Cup, and in the 2023, that was when Chelsea went mad, and in that January started spending all that money. But the big name that they brought from that World Cup in particular was how good Enzo Fernandez was. They noticed that, and then obviously they went and brought him for 105 million. Without giving too much away, I mean, obviously we'll come on to it later on. I think this is the end of Enzo Fernandez's time at Chelsea. You know, Chelsea spent £105 million on him. City, if you have these deals in place, you don't pay that extra charge that comes off the back of a World Cup. I remember Chelsea a few years ago wanting to go and buy Gonzalo Higuain, and they were very, very tempted to go and do it before, I think it was a 2010 World Cup. They left it too long, and then all of a sudden, £40 million comes in, and I think it was Napoli, I think, that might have pulled the trigger. I can't remember. I can't remember what order. I want to say it was Real Madrid, then Napoli, or
because I know he was at Madrid first.
Okay, so it was Madrid that pulled the trigger then. Apologies. Yeah, so, I mean, you get players like that, but when it comes to City and Maresca, now, obviously, you forget Pep. Pep is gone and it's moving on. You've got to start building for the future. Maresca can go and attract players that he really wanted at Chelsea, players of quality, a couple of targeted positions that he wants to go and look at. There has been also a couple of talks about people from Chelsea going over to Manchester City, but that might be another thing for another time if those rumours are to be believed or not. But it's a very, very big task for Pep Guardiola, for Enzo Maresca now to replace Pep Guardiola, and a big task for City as well to try and keep that level of consistency. But I think from what I see and what I understand about the club, I think they'll get it right. Another one in terms of managerial sort of moves, it's not really a move, but it's something that we should definitely touch on, is Carrick getting the Man United job on a permanent basis. I mean, I think it'd be very difficult because of the fact that they now will have European football, and they didn't have it last year. But I think Carrick 100% deserved to get that job.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, he's come in and changed it completely around. Like, you got to remember when Amarin was still there, when Carrick took over, they were still bottom half the table. Like, comfortably bottom half the table. And the fact that he's even managed to get them Champions League football after the season they'd had already, that's a massive achievement. So, I think Carrick deserves it. Is he the right choice? Like, because I know a lot of people are like, okay, well, he's doing a great job, but do we want him as the permanent manager? Could, like, a Solskjaer type situation, yes or no? So that was the main debate that was going on. But I mean, he's in there, he knows the squad, he loves the club, he knows how the club is run properly, so it's like, why not give him a shot? It's better than what they've had the last couple of years. If it doesn't work out next season, it's not like he's going to put them in a worse position than they were before. So I think it's good. I mean, even on final day they beat Brighton 3-0 comfortably away from home, which is still like a tough place to go in the Premier League, especially how good Brighton are over the last couple of seasons.
And Brighton still had something to play for as well, which is a really, really big factor. You go in and beat a team 3-0 when they're trying to fight for Europe, which they did end up getting. Yeah. But that's still a statement of intent when literally Man United had nothing else to play for. Yeah,
but a lot of things like the end of the season kind of tells you how next season will go a little bit as well. So it's like United, I can see that they've done so well in this last couple, like in the last 5 games they've won 4 and drawn 1, so that poor sod can't get a haircut like me yet. And I'm looking at the rest of like the form table, no one apart from Arsenal who won their last 5 really looked anything impressive. Like, there's no real runner results there. There's no.
It was very up and down across the whole league, wasn't it?
So it's like, even with us, like we didn't win a game on our last 4, Liverpool, and it's like, okay,
I now that you mention that, I found out a terrible stat about Chelsea, which I do want to bring up. I think it was something like in the last 9 games of the season, Chelsea needed 6 points to qualify for the Europa League, and they got 3, which is shocking. It's so bad. Sorry, that is the drop off, I think, of the Premier League. Chelsea maybe more so than most, but yeah, someone's got to come and fill the void, to be fair, and Brighton did it.
Yeah, like Brighton qualify for the conference, Sunderland and Bournemouth getting European for like Europa League as well, which is massive for them. Especially Sunderland, they just come back up into the Prem.
That is great for them. I'm so happy for Sunderland. That's the sort of club that I want to go and get European football.
But there's like, they also done the double over Newcastle, who didn't even get anywhere close to European football as well. Like, that's a great season for them. And then Bournemouth, who've been a fairly solid Prem team as well the last couple of seasons, who lost a lot of their key players even during the season. Like Semenyo went in January. You had pretty much all their defenders went. Like Kirkes came to us. The Ukrainian guy, who I'm not going to try and pronounce, he went to PSG. Huijsen went to
Real Madrid. Yeah.
So it's like a lot of their bigger players, like they all left, and the fact that they've still managed to turn it around after a poor start to the season, and to get 6th place. Only 3 points off Champions League in the end, because that's where we finished in 5th. Like, that's a massive achievement for them, and fair play. We're going to enjoy watching them in Europe take on the mighty Italian giants of Juventus or AC Milan.
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll go on to that later on, but I mean, like, that is a massive story. 2 meant to be Super League clubs as well. Shows what you know. Last thing we'll just go on to this section as well is, of course, Chelsea. Obviously, those, Brighton, Bournemouth, Sunderland all coming up into the European spaces. Congratulations to them. But it does mean that teams miss out. Newcastle, terrible league season for them. in terms of everything else that they've had going on. They've had a couple of really good results as well in Europe, and a couple of really good things, and things they can be very proud of. But overall grand scheme of things, with the investment that they've put in, not getting European football out of it is really, really poor. Obviously, Tottenham's end to the season, well, whole season, has been shocking for the second year in a row. Obviously, they wouldn't have even got European football if they hadn't have won the Europa League last year. But now they're going to have no European football. They're not going to be able to attract players in that much, I don't think, Spurs. They're probably going to be in a hole. No European football for Chelsea, which is a mad one. World champions as they are, no European football at all. I think it generally will be a blessing in disguise for Chelsea, because they can just focus on being very good in the league. Because I think if you look at, maybe other than a few, I think if you look at all the teams that have won the Champions League, you know, in the last probably 15 years or so, they've all been right up there challenging for a league title. Chelsea haven't challenged for a league title since we won it in 2017. We won it. They've been miles off it. Chelsea have ended up going on to win cup competitions. Since winning the Premier League, they've went on to win all 3 European awards that are available to them, which is, you know, mad. Yeah. So I think Chelsea have now got to transition from being essentially what is a cup team and a cup squad to now going to being real title challengers. And I do think that no European football will massively help with that. Don't be surprised if Chelsea do go and win something next year, whether it be one of the cups or maybe even do make a push to win the Premier League, because the focus is off of the grand scheme of things. The grand scheme of things becomes just focused on on English football and the qualification then for European football. But I do think that Chelsea are going to be in a very good position. It's just not where Chelsea fans would expect to be.
I mean, you've also got to take into consideration you've got Alonso coming in now as well, who you know we've seen already. You know, he done a good job at Madrid before he decided to leave, and then obviously he done a great job with Bayer Leverkusen winning the title undefeated. So like, you've got a great manager coming in, and I think the players again will respect him. And then, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you qualify for Champions League next season just because of Alonso coming in, sorting things out, picking the players he wants to pick, maybe getting a couple of good signings of players he already knows. Because I think Madrid, you know, they're going to be in for a hell of a summer. I reckon there'll be a lot of transfers out of there, so you don't know
exodus.
So you don't know who you could pick up. I think Tchouaméni was a great fan of Alonso, so holding midfielder alongside Caicedo, that could be good.
Yeah, with Enzo Fernandez likely to go as well. That's the sort of position you need to aim in for.
So there's
Camavinga is the other one who's been linked with Liverpool. Actually, believe it or not, I've seen that link go round, but whether that pans out or not, I'm not too sure. But again, I think with a lot of clubs not hitting the expectations this year that they would have hoped for, aimed for, anything like that, particularly those 2 big European clubs, you know, in terms of Juve and AC Milan, again, come on to them later, very easy could have players going elsewhere. So a lot of things to keep an eye on, but the sort of rounding off of the Premier League season in English football as it is, I think it's been probably quite a good year overall, but now, of course, moving on to the bigger and better fixtures. Now, moving on to the European finals. Of course, there is one coming up, which is of the day of recording tomorrow. We'll mention it briefly, but we've got to talk about one from last week. We've mentioned it previously already. How good were Aston Villa?
Oh, they were so good. Like, I managed to watch the whole game and they were on top the whole time. Maybe, you know, first 10 minutes Freiburg were a bit more alive, but then Villa showed their Prem class, and if anything, it was a bit too easy for them. I think Villa, obviously they were in the Champions League last season, and you know, they'd done well. They ended up going out to PSG, who ended up winning the tournament, but even then they gave them a good go. So it's like, I think Villa were always going to win this tournament. I think it was them or Forest really, and they played each other. Villa won, and you could be like, okay, it's going to be this English team that wins it. But I mean, they still had to perform on the day. They did 3-0. Tielemans with a great opening goal from a well-worked set piece. Then you had Buendia just showing his class, curling it in to give them 2-0.
Both those goals really, really close together as well, weren't they?
Right at the end of the first half.
It was very sort of. it was very much 1-2 punch from Villa, and Freiburg were just, in my opinion, they were just out of it by half time. I mean, they really needed to come out, start that second half, and they just couldn't.
Yeah, and then, even then, like, Villa scored their third, I think, within the opening 15 minutes of the second half, which killed the game off completely. And then it was just fun for Villa. Like, they enjoyed themselves. You know, Prince William had a great time in the crowd. Like,
I was just going to say, the person it looked most fun for was Prince William. He looked like he was having a great time out of it.
They even showed him for, like, the first goal, and he celebrated like a proper football fan as well, which is nice to see. And it's like, yeah, he gets it.
100%.
And it's 100%. Like, yeah, but
I don't know if you saw it. Sorry, I don't know if you saw it afterwards. Sorry, Cameron, to interrupt you. But there was a Villa podcast. I don't know what it is. Apologies for not knowing. But there was a Villa podcast that ended up sitting quite near to Prince William, and he was just having a good 3-minute chat. They recorded the whole thing a bit sort of 50-50 because it was just on phones and things like that, you know. But they had a really good chat, and he was clearly so passionate about, you know, the football club. And obviously this is a member of the royal family. Of course, he's very well spoken and everything, but, you know, you can just see the fondness from even someone, you know, probably their most famous fan. Some people would argue Tom Hanks, but their most famous fan, in terms of just getting it on a real level. I mean, they sort of had a plan from the start of the year, which was they are going to go for it in the league and then go on to obviously try and win the Europa League. And I think what a lot of people don't realise now is, you know, that winning of the Europa League is a great achievement. And again, I think that they were the best team in the competition anyway, and I think it was probably theirs to lose. But playing the great, attractive brand of football that they did, you know, in the final, to look as brilliant as they did in that final and just really just clean up. I mean, I was at the Conference League final last year, where Betis scored against Chelsea early on, and Chelsea had to work to then go and get the 4 goals in the second half, and the scoreline looks very different to how the game was. But in this, it was Villa the whole way through, absolutely excellent, really showing off to anyone around Europe that was watching that game, really showing off what they're about. But because of winning that game, they now qualify into the Champions League as a pot 1 team. So they are going to probably have quite a good run of fixtures. Not guaranteed, but they could have a quite good run of fixtures in terms of who they have to play against and how things might pan out in their favour. I know people are sort of limiting that a little bit and sort of reducing it a little bit because of how the tournament format is. But Villa's chances now to go on and kick on from this are probably quite favourable, I would say. They looked really, really good, and they delivered as well, and they're now reaping the rewards of it. And I think with this World Cup, I know we mentioned it earlier, but this World Cup, a couple of players will be looking at going like, well, Villa is very much an option for me to go to. If they're playing that great brand of football, maybe not the big names, but some of those smaller ones that you can sort of creep in, 30-40 million pound deals here and there. Villa look like a really, really good side, and it's massive credit to Unai Emery to get the club from where they were to where they are now. They're looking like I won't go proper European elite, but a proper European contender, maybe?
I'd say like a stable European team who are going to be in there for the next couple of years to come. They'll upset some of the big teams. I think they'll still...
They will. They definitely will.
I think they'll still lose to like a couple of the European minnows that are in the tournament. Not for like anything, but like just because like still they're inexperienced, I'd say, in the Champions League.
Yeah.
But like it's still really exciting couple of years for Villa to come. Like Unai Emery, like okay, he didn't work out at Arsenal, but like everywhere else he's gone, he seems to be able to win trophies. Okay, the Europa League is his specialty, which we've seen so many times now. But it's like okay,
of course,
it's not like they do bad in the Champions League either when Unai Emery's in it. So it's like. And it's like Villa, like no one expects much of them, which means they can have a bit more fun in the competition as well. And it's like they'll probably look at the World Cup like, all right, who does well? Can we actually, you know, put a bid in against some of the bigger teams that are looking for them? But I think what they also got to be careful of is trying to keep their better players as well, because you know,
that's
that
the worry.
is also the flip side of things, because like they've got really good players. Like obviously Martinez, the keeper, could have left in the summer or was trying to. You don't know if someone else might decide to come in for him if he has another good tournament on the back of Argentina. Their defenders, you know, Konza I think is probably the biggest name in that back four now. Could he end up going to someone bigger? of course, still they got Champions League, but like someone else could come in for him. And then their midfield, like Tielemans has always been like one of their bigger ones, you know. So like, he'll be at the World Cup with Belgium. If he scores another couple of screamers like he normally does, you know, someone might be looking at him. And then, you know, Watkins, you know, maybe he could think, okay, could I go to a bigger club for a couple of years towards... Because I think he's about 30-ish now.
I think he is. I think that would... The other thing as well, and we always, especially we always say it with these English teams particularly, you know, we're saying about those bigger clubs, you are right in terms of some clubs coming in and nicking certain players. One of the big things as well is, I know for me, I mean, I'm 28 now, but I mean, if I was a professional footballer in the current state, you know, current mindset that I am, the idea of playing in Europe is something that I would want to do by the end of my career. That's something that me personally, if anyone else shares that sort of similar, you know, apologies, by the way, there's a dog outside, but I am not closing the windows because it's absolutely roasted. If you want to go and play at that European elite level, or even just play in Europe to experience the culture, maybe wanting to go and move abroad, you know, for family reasons, maybe uplift certain people at certain times or whatever, you know, that's a really, really big thing. And I think that that's the sort of thing that, you know, it's now going to become available to these players, and that's the sort of thing that they will be really, really tempted by. But I want to just move off from Villa, because I spent a lot of time talking about them as they just very much deserve it.
They do deserve the time. Like, it's
100%. Yeah, I mean, so impressive. And then to go and beat City on the final day as well, where a lot of people would have taken their foot off the gas massively. But
I think
it's still...
on one of the betting sites, they were like 8-1 to win. Like, the betting sites had like...
What, on the last day?
Yeah, they had no hope for him, because they thought they'd just turn up pissed. I think he would have been worth sticking a tenner on the end.
Yeah, if I would have known, I probably would have whacked a tenner on at 8-1.
Yeah,
that sort of says everything, though. I think a lot of people didn't expect anything, but I mean, they are consistently surprising people, and are very, 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 very good at it. And I very much look forward to watching them do it again and again and again. Again, love the fan base, good club, well run, really, really, really well done for them. Cannot argue and cannot say anything more. But let's now move on to the second of the European finals, which again we're only going to touch on briefly, as it is tomorrow at the time of recording. Very best of luck to Crystal Palace, similar boat as Aston Villa. Very well run club, obviously won the FA Cup last year. They had the unfortunate saga with Marinakis, with the whole dual ownership thing, and they got booted into the Conference League rather than going into the Europa League. And I have to say, it sounds really bad, but I said it ages ago, months ago, probably pretty much start of the season. Them going into the Conference League is 10 times better for them than it would have been going into the Europa League. And the reason why I said that is because I think Palace as a club are very unstable at certain things. You know, they run very well, but they're sort of limited, shall we say. I think they sort of know where their standard is, and they don't want to go massively over the top. And winning the FA Cup is the greatest achievement that's ever come in their history, and they should reap the rewards for it. But they have essentially now, when they got knocked into that Conference League, they got put into a competition which, having watched a lot of it last year, I knew they could win. And I think they are now going to go and win, and that is my prediction for that game, is that they will go on and kick on. Although Rayo Vallecano is a very decent opposition, I still think they will have enough because of the power of the Premier League. You've got to think, this is not the best Premier League side that there is. This is not Villa, but I still think that Palace can definitely do a job, make that game competitive, and again, I do think they can win it. But very much the best of luck to Crystal Palace. Both of these teams, Palace and Rayo Vallecano, currently with no European football next year. So it's not only the silverware, the European title that you can have, it's also the financial ramifications of being in the Europa League next year. And Palace can go and give it a go. But the Palace not being in the Europa League this year, when Villa, we knew were already doing what they were doing and have won the final with such ease, essentially. You didn't want to go up against them. Forest found out in the semi-final what happens if you go up against Villa. It was what it was. But, I mean, I think for me, one of the big things I would say, as we just sort of skip over this, because we do want to give it some time, but unfortunately the edit won't be out in time for it. Very much looking forward to that game, and very, very, very best of luck to Crystal Palace. We're now going to go on to the big final. the big one. The Champions League final.
Yes.
Before we go anywhere further, full 11s, everything out there, Cameron. Who wins that Champions League final? Just a prediction, a couple of words. Who do you think wins it? Just very briefly.
PSG.
Right, okay,
PSG,
fine.
like,
the couple of words I thought might be Paris Saint-Germain.
Okay, well, I decided to make it even easier for you. I'll just use the letters.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I'm in the same boat as you. They are the better team, I think, in terms of on paper.
100%, yeah.
In terms of form, obviously, I know Arsenal have ended the season the last couple of weeks very well, but I mean, obviously, that's going up against teams of a different calibre to PSG. I think PSG have been so impressive throughout the whole of the campaign. I was there when they knocked out Chelsea, and they did it effortlessly. Now, I know that was not a good Chelsea team at the time, but they did it effortlessly, and I'm pretty sure it was around about a similar time that Chelsea only lost 1-0 to Arsenal in the second leg of a League Cup semi-final. It would have been a few weeks afterwards, the Champions League, but it was in and around a sort of similar time frame. I was at both those games. I looked at it. Arsenal were very much, we had a job to do and we knew what we were doing and we did it, and that was it. They won 1-0 and they scored the goal right at the end. It was 0-0. They just needed to keep a clean sheet. I don't think that if Arsenal had to come out and play against Chelsea, that result would have been the same. Chelsea had to come out and play against PSG and got whacked. And I think, again, there's definitely a level of quality between Chelsea and Arsenal, of course. I mean, there's 10 league spots, I think about 30-odd points. But I think in terms of 90 minutes of football, as one individual game, Arsenal could very easily, and it's not a disrespect to Arsenal could go and get battered in this final. But also, the way that Arsenal have been so stubborn at the back, I think that there could be half a chance that Arsenal do actually keep this game very, very tight and we see a single goal being the winner. Now, which way that goes is very, very hit and miss. But current big news going on, if the rumours are to be believed, is there is a chance that there is no Hakimi and no Dembele for PSG for the final. They're still both late fitness tests, but if you're hearing rumours, there's got to be some element of truth in it. And I think that even if they do play, they are fit, they are ready to go, they might not be 100%. And that might be where Arsenal have that little bit of luck.
Yeah, so if the fitness things that we've seen, Warren Zaire-Emery play right back for PSG quite a few times this season, and he is comfortable there, even though he is a teenager and still, learning the game. But against us early in the competition, he was brilliant. So, I think they'll still be fine. Obviously, he doesn't offer the same going forward as Hakimi with the pace, and it's a bit of times Hakimi was popping up at left wing against us just because he could. With Dembele, that would, I think, be a much bigger miss because their backup striker Gonzalo Ramos, not a bad striker to have, but nowhere near the
Ballon d'Or winner, is he?
Nowhere near the same quality as Dembele. But that being said, I think Arsenal, we mentioned their stubbornness already, that is going to be their key, I think. I don't think Arsenal can come out and play the same tempo as PSG. I could also see Arsenal, on the flip side, dominating possession and PSG just trying to catch them on the counter-attack. Because we've seen that a lot this season as well.
That is what I think will happen. That is where I genuinely see this game going, is that PSG will try and win on the counter-attack. And if that happens, Arsenal might be in serious amounts of trouble.
Yeah, because we've seen it as well, the pace that they have and their ability with the ball at their feet as well. Kvaratskhelia can carry it, Barcola can carry it, Doué can carry it, Dembele, if he's fit, can carry it. But it's also what has been so good to watch with PSG over the last, all the legs so far, is how clinical they are when they do get those chances. Especially in that first leg against Bayern, they didn't have that many chances, but they scored 5 goals. Which
they are ruthless, absolutely ruthless. And I'll take it back again. Sorry to interrupt, but the game against Chelsea that I was at, I knew the tie was completely over pretty much before we went. But it was in the first couple of minutes they scored twice. But Dembele, I think it was, who got the goal. I'm pretty sure it was him.
I think
not even he did.
As well.
Yeah, but the Dembele one, he didn't even need to finish it. Like, it wasn't even a finish. He hit it so hard and it was so ruthless. It was like, this is going on target and you're not going to save it. Doesn't matter about it being in the top corner. It was just, you're not saving this. And it absolutely rifled past the keeper, pretty much straight over his head. But it had gone so quick that before the keeper had even reacted, it was gone. It was over and it was done. And I think it's a massive sort of sign that if you can finish in ways like that, you know, you can put the ball in the back of the net. You look at Harry Kane; he does it elegantly, he does it perfectly. You know, it's headers there, it's little curved caress balls that go into the corner. You know, that's great finishing. That's lovely finishing. It's beautiful finishing, but ruthless finishing. The way that the PSG front line does. Oh, I mean, that it does. If they blast it over the bar, you know, and it only goes over, you know, by a foot or something, you're still as worried because you know that the next one that's coming might be on target, and there's a fair chance it will be.
I think you've also got to take into consideration PSG were here last year, and Inter Milan, who had been very good, beating Barcelona, who probably were the favourites last year in the semi-final. You're thinking, okay,
yeah,
this
definitely,
is
they were definitely the favourites.
Yeah, it was like, okay, Inter beat them, so it's like, okay, could the European Cup return to Milan for the first time in 15 years? No,
yeah,
it was a whitewash from the get-go. Like, PSG were on top. They were, again, the clinical nature that we had seen already. So I think coming back to the Champions League final, PSG are going to be so much comfortable in this game anyway, because like we've done this last year. We know we can win it. We have a very similar squad to last year. We know how we play. We know what to do. We trust our manager. This is it. Arsenal, on the other hand, they haven't been in Champions League finals for 20 years.
Yeah, 2006.
It is Arteta's biggest game of his career as well, who is still, we must say, like a kind of new manager to European football. Okay, he's won the Premier League now on his 7th attempt. Again, congratulations. But European football is so different to the Premier League. That's why, like, teams like Liverpool in some years, like Chelsea, when they haven't been at their best in the Prem, they can still win the Champions League because it's just completely different competition. It's like people say, okay, it's cup competition, but no, there's so much more to it.
It's the cup competition. Yeah. It's not a cup competition, it's the cup competition.
Yeah, so Arsenal, I think that, again, they'll be very stubborn in defence, but they've got to be so wary of the PSG counter-attack. And when PSG have moments where they are dominating possession, because we know Vitinha, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz, they will do it. They will start having fun in the middle of the pitch. They've just got to be as solid as possible. But they have the players for it. They've got Raya in goal. They've got Gabriel Saliba in the middle. They've got Hincapié. They've got... I'm not sure if Timber will be fit yet. But, like... Anyway, their defence is... Like,
solid.
You're thinking unstoppable first versus a movable object in this game. That's another way you could probably look at it. I'm excited for this final on Saturday, but I think it's going to be a final like we haven't seen before, because it's like Arsenal who are desperate, PSG have just done it, and it's also just a case of like, okay, what style of football wins? Because you also got to remember, Arsenal, they are a threat from set pieces. Can PSG deal with that?
Deal with it.
So I'm thinking of the PSG team. They've got some big players, but I don't think...
Not loads.
But even then, I'm thinking, I don't think a lot of them are going to be above that 6'2" type vibe.
No.
Like maybe Marquinhos and Pacho. But the rest of them, they are fairly small players. So do they then change their lineup maybe to try and accommodate that for Arsenal set pieces?
I think if you're PSG, I think the way that you've got to go about it is that you are the reigning European champions and you were finalists of the Club World Cup, and I think a lot of people would have argued that you are the best team in the world by a mile, and I think that Arsenal will probably be the other one that everyone starts considering. But Arsenal haven't done anything on the European stage. They've never won the trophy. They've made the final once and lost it in Paris. But I think that the way that this game should go and the way that it will go will be very different. And I think that, I'm going to come and ask you for a score prediction as we sort of round this off, but I think that the expectation on PSG is more than it is on Arsenal, and I think the Arsenal fans that are going into this game, I think I will say it, and I think Arsenal fans slightly need to calm down with it. I think there's a level of arrogance, cockiness that goes into this game that Arsenal can go and beat everyone, which they definitely can, but I think there is also a chance that PSG will batter Arsenal, and then this game doesn't really go down in the history books of anything. And I don't know which way this game will go, because again, I could see both teams winning it. I genuinely could, but if I had to put my life savings on it, if there was if it was a life or death scenario, I'm only going to pick PSG, and it's because of the fact that they've been there and done it before and have history with it, where Arsenal, with all due respect to them, they haven't been in an FA Cup final since, I think, 2020. They haven't really had the big game exposure where the whole of Europe is looking at you. The only time that they did really was the semi-final against Atletico Madrid, and everyone was in the same boat going, with all due respect, you're never going to live up to that game yesterday, are you? You were the centre of attention because you were on, not because of the fact that they were so good and the tie was really appetising and whatever. The final should have been PSG versus Bayern. It wasn't how the fixtures sorted out, but I think if Arsenal would have come across a bigger team earlier on in the tournament, I do think they would have struggled, and I think over 2 legs it might have been that Bayern that beat them, or if they played PSG early, I think they would have beaten them. But it's a one-off game of football, and Arsenal do have half a chance, which is why we do have to give credit where it's due. So to round off this section, Cameron, where are we going? What are you thinking? I'm going to go 2-1 PSG, because I do think Arsenal score.
I was thinking the same thing. I think Arsenal will score from a corner. The water's wet, but I think it will be after PSG scored their 2 goals. I think it's going
okay. So you think they get one back? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like a late kind of rally for Arsenal. If not that, I think it's a 0-0 penalty situation where Arsenal are so stubborn, and then it literally just goes down to spot kicks, which either team would win it. Like, I think Arsenal would have to start so well in this game if they want to win it, because I don't see it happening in
the second this game gets away from them. I don't see Arsenal coming and rescuing it.
No, because we've seen
I could see PSG do it.
Yeah, you can see PSG coming back to win it, but you can't see Arsenal coming back to win it, because I think PSG have that forward line where they can score a goal out of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. You see a 25-yard screamer from anyone in that PSG front line, you're not surprised in the slightest.
But then, for Arsenal, then I think Kai Havertz is probably going to be their key forward. Like, if they can get him into the game, because we know how good he is when he is fit and he's ticking. Like, he can be such a nuisance. Scores.
European football is his playground. Yeah. As someone who watched him regularly, he is not a Premier League footballer, especially not a Premier League centre forward. But in Europe, where you can move between the lines and there's a little bit more space and the game looks very different because players and teams use different styles, he can be very, very effective. And I mean, he has already scored a Champions League final winner. Does he go and get another one? Is he one of those players that has 2 on their CV?
Oh, well, we'll have to find out, won't we?
Please, God, no. But... Going into our last section now, Cameron is going to give us a European football roundup. There's a couple of big things that have happened across Europe. Cameron, can you tell us what they are?
Well, I think it's only right that we mention England's most prolific goal scorer over the last couple of years, Harry Kane. It was the German Cup at the weekend, and he scored a hat-trick against Stuttgart in the final to give Bayern yet another trophy this season. I managed to have a look at it as well live, and especially for the second half when all the goals came in, it was just the Kane show afterwards. Like, he scored 3 great goals, movement was great, the strikes were good, and again, it's just another one to add to his collection now that he's, seems to be wrapping up quite quickly now since gone to Bayern, but it also will bring in the conversation of Ballon d'Or. He's, the leading goal scorer in all the leagues this season. He nearly got Bayern to the Champions League final. The World Cup's coming up with England. Could we see our first English Ballon d'Or winner since Michael Owen? Fingers crossed.
Probably not, because they hate us, but carry on.
That's just part of it. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great for him. Great to see as well. And obviously Spurs then survived as well. So it's been a good weekend for him. Other than that, I think it's good to mention the cup final in Portugal. Sporting Lisbon went into this clear favourites against the second division side. And Ian, what did they do? They lose 2-1 extra time.
Lost.
After having a man sent off as well. It was so against the odds. It's something you hadn't seen for ages in Portuguese football, because we know that's been dominated by your Portos, your Benficas, your Sporting, Braga every so often seems to pop up as well. But the fact they've lost to a second division side who is now going to play European football because of this, and could potentially play into the second division as well, because I have to mention that they are in a playoff to get into the top division at the moment.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, they finished their Terense in the second division, and they've got a playoff game against Casapia, I think that's how you said it, who finished third bottom in the league. They've played their first game, it was 0-0, so there's a second leg to come. But, you could have a team in Portuguese second division playing European football next year, which is just unheard of, really.
Didn't I was going to say, I know it's unheard of. I'm pretty sure, did it not happen with us? I'm pretty sure it might have happened.
It was Wigan.
Was it Wigan? I also think it happened before. I think it might have also been when Birmingham won the League Cup and surprised Arsenal when over 30 Martins did the old backflip at Wembley. I think that was it's a rare one though. I mean that's really trying to string things together.
I mean, those ones you mentioned have been teams in the Premier League who've then been relegated.
That have gone down. Yeah,
this is a team in the second division,
which makes it so much better.
Who potentially could still come up. So it makes it lots better. It was quite funny watching the news, because I do know a Sporting Lisbon fan who's a bit of a douche. So it's like seeing that news did brighten my day a bit more. Other than that, though, we'll move on to Italian football, and they played their final fixtures of the season, where he said a lot of stuff that could happen. Como, Cesc Fabregas's team, they've qualified for Champions League football, which is great to see, and it's just a credit to him and the job he's done.
Go on, Cesc.
From the second division to surviving to finishing in good position to now European football, Champions League football at Lake Como. That's
incredible.
Day,
and as someone who has been to Lake Como, I've been to their ground as well. I mean, they are not ready in the slightest for European football, but I love the fact that they are going to get it, and they're going to get the best of the best as well. They're the sort of team. Obviously, you want them to go and do well, of course, but that's the sort of one that you want, like. You would love Barcelona to have to come and play, or someone like that, one of those big European giants. Yeah, just to go like, look, we're here and we're going to go and give you a game, and that would be such an occasion, especially as well with obviously Lake Como. I know obviously getting into the Champions League, but a team that failed to qualify. The team that failed to qualify for the Champions League, being less than an hour up the road. All of the fans will have to fly into the Milan airport, very close to the San Siro, in which AC Milan are not playing Champions League football. They're all going to have to go, oh my God, we're going to Milan, and then we're going to go off to Lake Como afterwards. So there's not loads to do in Lake Como. There's some lovely places, but not loads of things to do and places to stay. So there's going to be some fantastic scenes of likelihood a lot of European fans in the city of Milan playing a team that is not from Milan, just because there's more to do, and all of the AC Milan fans are going to have to sit there and go, that should have been us. Should have been us
playing against Barcelona. It's like, should have been us playing against the Bayern Munich. Should have been us playing against PSV for example. But it's going to be great. But even then, it also potentially makes a great week if you decide to fly to Italy and the fixtures are going, Como play on the Wednesday, AC Milan play on the Thursday. That's 2 European football you could go and see. You know,
And if you get really lucky, Inter Milan might play on the Tuesday. That sounds very tasty. And then you're thinking, can I go on a couple of days later and get a cheeky league game in? It's very possible. Yeah, it's very possible.
Or do you just like, don't think Turin's that far from Milan either. It's like, let's go see Juventus.
Monza. I think Monza is not too far away from. Atalanta's only up the road as well.
There's a lot of teams in the north of Italy. Like there's
there's a lot of good teams as well in the north of Italy.
This is turning into a very good week trip already, if you plan it correctly.
Yeah, this might be a special edition of the pod. Actually, this might be, Cameron.
But yeah,
we got bored and went to Europe and went to Italy for a week.
Yeah, but I mean,
how many games
AC
of football
Milan
can we get in?
and Juventus are in the Europa League. That's the only kind of stuff you see if they had dropped down from the Champions League a couple of years ago. That's the fact they're just going to be in the Europa League now against Sunderland and Bournemouth. That's going to be mad. Like the size of the clubs against it's potentially be a couple of taste fixtures next year. And then, Ajax as well, we know they're fall off too. They're playing the conference. So it's like, we've got, which English team was it? Was it Brighton that snuck in? So we could see Brighton,
Brighton
Ajax next year as well. So, but that would be great. That would be fantastic. That would be very, very good as well. That would be a proper day out. There's some really good teams in that Conference League as well. If you do get half a chance, go and have a look at some of the other big boys that have sort of come down a little bit. But like it's very, very, very tense of what could potentially happen in that Europa Conference League. There's a lot of big teams in it. Go and have a look if you get a chance. But I think it's also I know there's been some, just sticking to that European football, there's been a lot of people talking about how they don't like the new format where teams don't get demoted into the one below. But I think it's also just making it a more fun journey for those smaller clubs who don't qualify every year. Because you really don't, I agree that you don't want to see the same names on the trophy every year.
Yes.
But so Palace had the chance to win a European trophy, which you don't really see. Villa won of the Europa League. Again, you don't see them that often. West Ham as well a couple of years ago. You have so many different teams now on the names. I love it because it's like you're in a competition. It's still a level playing field, which you want to see. Obviously, you'll still have a couple of big clubs that might end up like Chelsea last season,
where the conference, let's be honest, we shouldn't have been in that.
You shouldn't have been in it.
We qualified for it the right way, but we shouldn't have been.
Yeah, but again, that will happen each year. There'll be some big teams that just end up falling there and playing this kind of European football because they didn't do well in the league. But then you have the opposite, where the small teams do really good one year and finish in the top half and sneak in, and then they're like, okay, we've got some European away days for the first time maybe in our history. So it's going to be, I think it's great for the smaller clubs to have a chance of winning silverware, because even in just their normal cup competition like the FA Cup and stuff, okay, we had Palace last year, but again this year you had City again. So it's like
it's normally one of the big teams that wins our cup
it's normally one of the big teams. So like having a competition for the teams that have had a good year for like their standards, and then having opportunity to then win a trophy, I think it's very good. And long may it continue.
I 100% agree. Even teams like Roma and Fiorentina as well, like they're the sort of teams that you do want to see having success. Bigger teams, but then they're going to get a chance to.
But even over the last couple of years, like they have not been near the levels where they had been, like Roma especially. They have not been near it. Fiorentina again, bigger back in the day, but
you look at the players that played for Roma. You look at the players that played for Roma down the years and look at where they are now as a club. But the fan base is still incredible. The fan base is still absolutely excellent. And again, it brings European football and European success to teams from elsewhere around the world. So, elsewhere around Europe. And it's, I think all three competitions as they are now are absolutely excellent. I have to say, maybe there's a couple too many games in there, but I mean, I do think it's a fantastic advert for European football at the moment, where you can get different levels of winners Because let's be honest, 5 years ago, Palace were never even dreaming of winning a European title. Now it's literally in the palm of their hands, and we'd love to open that up to everywhere else, but that is going to be it for the podcast. There's a lot of football to talk about, and there's going to be loads more coming up. We are going to transition into our World Cup content. There will probably be a video for the Champions League final, and then we're going to be moving into all of the World Cup stuff that is coming up, which we are absolutely buzzing for. Thank you for watching. If you're new around here, make sure you like, share and subscribe. Turn the notification bell on as well, and check out our socials to make sure you're keeping up to date with everything that we are doing. But for now, Cameron, thank you very much.
Thanks,
and we will see you all next week. Our pleasure as always. We will see you all next week. Take care, stay safe, and enjoy the football that is coming up this week.